Hello everyone, now let us discuss about drugs for heart failure part 3. In the current session, we will be focusing on diuretics. Coming to preload reduction, usually the fluid overload with increased filling pressure, that is nothing but increased preload and dilation of ventricles in heart failure is a consequence of decreased kidney perfusion and activation of renin-angiotensin system. And in order to treat heart failure, one of the principles for therapeutic use is preload reduction. And the drugs which achieve this goal are diuretics. They increase the sodium and water excretion by inhibiting transporters in the kidney and thereby improve the symptoms of congestive heart failure by moving patients to lower cardiac filling pressures along with the same ventricular functional curve. They move the patients to lower cardiac filling pressures. They reduce the filling pressure along the same ventricular functional curve. And the various diuretics that are employed in the treatment of heart failure are loop diuretics, diazide diuretics, and potassium sparing diuretics. Coming to the mechanism of diuretic drugs, the diuretic drugs, they increase the urine output by altering how the kidney handles sodium. They promote diuresis by altering how the kidney handles the sodium. If the kidney excretes more sodium, then water excretion will also increase. So most diuretics produce diuresis by inhibiting the reabsorption of sodium at different segments of renal tubular system. And sometimes a combination of two diuretics are given because they are more effective because of the synergistic effect. And the reason for this is that one nephron segment can compensate for altered sodium reabsorption at another nephron segment. Therefore, blocking multiple nephron sites can significantly enhance the efficacy. Coming to loop diuretics, the drugs are furosemide, toracimide, and bumetadine. The basic mechanism of loop diuretics is they inhibit the sodium, potassium, and chloride symporter. Sodium, potassium, and chloride symporter in the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle, where up to 15% of the primary filtrate, that is around 150 liters per day, is reabsorbed, explaining their strong diuretic action. The transporter normally reabsorbs about 25% of the sodium load. Therefore, inhibition of this pump can lead to significant increase in the distal tubular concentration of sodium, which reduces the hypertonicity of the surrounding interstitium, and therefore less water reabsorption is achieved in collecting duct. And by acting on the thick ascending limb, which handles a significant fraction of sodium reabsorption, loop diuretics are considered to be very powerful diuretics. The next are thiazide diuretics. The most commonly used thiazide diuretics in heart failure are chlorthalidone and hydrochlorothiazide. The mechanism is they inhibit the sodium chloride symporter in the distal convoluted tubule. Thiazide diuretics, they inhibit the sodium chloride symporter in the distal convoluted tubule. So reabsorption about 5% of the filtered sodium. These diuretics are less efficacious than loop diuretics in producing diuresis and natriuresis. They have limited role in heart failure for their low maximum diuretic effect, and usually the thiazide diuretics, they lose their efficacy whenever the glomerular filtration rate is below 30 ml per minute. However, combination therapy with loop diuretics is often effective in those refractory to loop diuretics alone, because the refractiveness of the loop diuretics is often caused by upregulation of sodium chloride symporter. So a combination of thiazide diuretic and loop diuretic has beneficial effect because the thiazide diuretics, they block or inhibit the sodium chloride symporter, and they are associated with greater degree of potassium wasting per fluid volume reduction. Hence, therapy requires careful monitoring of potassium levels. Whenever thiazide diuretics are prescribed, careful monitoring of potassium levels must be done. and their mechanism also depends on renal prostaglandin production. Coming to the next diuretics, potassium sparing diuretics. They are not regularly employed. Coming to the mechanism, they can either inhibit the epithelial sodium channel, ENaC. Example of drugs are amloride and triamterene. Or they can reduce the gene expression of this epithelial sodium channel. Example of drugs are spironolactone and eplerenone, which are mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists. Usually these agents are weak diuretics and they are used in combination, especially to treat hypertension, along with loop diuretics and thiazide diuretics to reduce potassium and magnesium wasting. Coming to diuretics, why diuretics are employed in heart failure. Heart failure leads to activation of renin-angiotensin system, which causes increased sodium and water retention by kidneys. In turn, this increases the blood volume and contributes to the elevated venous pressures associated with heart failure, which can lead to pulmonary and systemic edema. And the primary use of diuretics in heart failure is to reduce the pulmonary or systemic congestion and edema and other associated clinical symptoms like shortness of breath and dyspnea. The long-term treatment of diuretics may also reduce afterload on the heart by promoting systemic vasodilation, which can lead to improved ventricular ejection. And when treating heart failure with diuretics, care must be taken to not unload too much of volume because this can depress the cardiac output. And most patients in heart failure are prescribed a loop diuretic because they are more effective in unloading sodium and water than thiazide diuretics. In case of mild heart failure, thiazide diuretics may also be used. The potassium sparing diuretics, especially aldosterone blocking agents which are spironolactone, are being increasingly used in heart failure. Coming to the cardiovascular effects of diuretics. Through their effects on sodium and water balance, diuretics decrease blood volume and venous pressure. They decrease the cardiac filling, that is nothing but preload, and by Frank-Starling mechanism, they decrease the ventricular stroke volume and cardiac output, which can lead to fall in arterial pressure. And the decrease in venous pressure reduces the capillary hydrostatic pressure, which decreases the capillary fluid filtration and promotes capillary fluid reabsorption, therefore reducing the edema. And the loop diuretics, they cause venodilation, which can contribute to lowering of venous pressure. And the long-term use of diuretics results in the fall of systemic vascular resistance. This helps to sustain the reduction in arterial pressure. These are some of the cardiovascular effects of diuretics. Coming to pulmonary and systemic edema. Diuretics are mainly employed to reduce pulmonary and systemic edema, and by reducing the blood volume and venous pressure, they lower the capillary hydrostatic pressure, which leads to reduced net capillary fluid filtration, and this reduces the edema, tissue edema. Because left ventricular failure can cause life-threatening pulmonary edema, most heart failure patients are treated with a loop diuretic to prevent or reduce the pulmonary edema. And the diuretics may also be used to treat peripheral edema, that is nothing but leg edema, which is caused by right-sided heart failure or venous insufficiency in the limb. Coming to the adverse effects and drug interactions of diuretics. Thiazides, here we will be discussing only about thiazide diuretics and loop or high ceiling diuretics. The adverse effects of thiazide diuretics are hypokalemia, metabolic acidosis, dehydration leading to hypotension, hyponatremia, hyperglycemia in diabetes, hypercholesteremia, hypertriglyceridemia, increased low density lipoproteins, and hyperuricemia at low doses, and azotemia in renal patients. The drug interactions are hypokalemia potentiates the digitalis toxicity, and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs they reduce the diuretic efficacy. Beta blockers, they potentiate hyperglycemia and hyperlipidemia. Corticosteroids, they enhance the hypokalemia. Coming to the adverse effects of loop or high ceiling diuretics, they are hypokalemia and metabolic acidosis, hyperuricemia, hypomagnesemia, dehydration leading to hypotension, and dose-related hearing loss, ototoxicity. Loop diuretics are associated with ototoxicity. The drug interactions are hypokalemia potentiates the digitalis toxicity. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, they reduce the diuretic efficacy of loop diuretics. Corticosteroids, they enhance hypokalemia. And aminoglycosides, they enhance the ototoxicity and nephrotoxicity whenever given along with loop diuretics. Here you can see the hypokalemia and metabolic acidosis are two major side effects or adverse effects. The reason is, as loop and thiazide diuretics, they increase the sodium delivery to distal tubule. This leads to increased potassium loss, potentiating the hypokalemia. Usually, the increased sodium concentration stimulates the aldosterone sensitive sodium pump to increase sodium reabsorption in exchange to potassium and hydrogen ions, which are excreted in the urine. So, increased loss of hydrogen ions in urine can lead to metabolic acidosis. Increased loss of potassium can lead to hypokalemia, and increased loss of hydrogen ions can lead to metabolic acidosis. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for further videos on pharmacology and other related pharmaceutical sciences.